No matter how you slice it, photography is a seriously expensive hobby. I mean, have you ever added up how much you spent in total for your complete photography kit? And that wouldn't even account for all the money you spent in the past on gear that you no longer have. Either way, we spend a small fortune on our camera gear, so it would definitely behoove us to do everything in our power to help extend the life of our gear. And with my upcoming fall workshops in the Italian Dolomites next week, this is generally the time that I go through a deep cleaning of my gear in order to ensure that everything is in good working order before I depart. And in this video, I'll review the step-by-step process that I go through when it comes to caring, cleaning, and preparing my camera gear for an upcoming trip. So I broke this video down into 4 different parts, which I'll link below just in case you want to skip to one of the following sections, which are lenses, cameras, tripods, and preventative measures you can take in order to avoid future problems. So to jump right into it, as far as cleaning lenses are concerned, so the very first thing that I always like to do is just make sure that the physical lens barrel is clean and free of debris before I start cleaning any of the lens elements. Ultimately, because I want to make sure that there isn't any kind of debris that could eventually fall onto the lens before I start cleaning it. So I always like to just take one of these rocket blowers, blow everything off on the actual lens itself, and just make sure that everything is nice and clean. These little lens cleaning pens are also nice. Let me take the cap off here. Pop that up. It's a nice little, just soft brush right through there. But these are also great for just kind of cleaning off the grooves of your lens barrel, your focus ring, your zoom rings, things like that, just to try and make sure that everything is clean as possible. And then once you are satisfied, you can also take a cloth and just wipe everything down as well. But once you're satisfied that everything on the physical body of your lens is clean, then I go ahead and start to clean the front and rear lens element. The very first thing that I always do, and this is very, very important, is to go ahead and blow off the front element. Mainly because you want to make sure that the front element is as clear of debris as possible. Because can you imagine if you had like one little piece of sand on your lens element and then you started to wipe it off, you would just grind that particle of sand into the lens and that would create permanent damage. Want to avoid that. So I always make sure to blow everything off. And the real trick that I always go, it's not really a trick, I guess, but is to hold it upside down, because you ultimately want to blow debris off and it to fall down. If you blow it like this, it could just be blowing up and just falling right back down. So holding it upside down like this and blowing it on an angle. So putting it the blower right on an angle like this, and just kind of work your way all the way around the lens right there. And then what I do is I bought these. These are little lens wipes. I bought a ton of them too. These are from Zeiss. This is a box of 200. I don't recall how much exactly it was. I'll put a link below, but I think it was like $10 for these. But why I like these is because I used to use this. I used to carry this bottle of lens cleaning solution and then these rags, and I would spray the rag and then I would wipe it off. These are just soft microfiber cloths. But I like this as far, especially for travel, because you don't have to carry this around anymore. But just these little packets, you open them up like this, open up the little solution here. These have that kind of lens cleaning solution from Zeiss on there. And then I just start to wipe in a circular motion from the inside of from the center, and just slowly work my way outward. So just going around like this, nice slow motions until I get to the outside edge of the lens. Try and get all around here as well. Just like that. Give it a good wipe again, all the way around in a circular motion. And that is usually will get the lens or the front element crystal clear right there. And then the only real difference between the front element and the rear element is the rear element has contacts that you want to clean. So pop it off, lift it upside down, shoot the rocket blower all around here. Hopefully any kind of debris will fall down. Definitely want to get the outside area here and definitely want to blow out any kind of debris that is on these contacts. Get that really good. And then I take a microfiber cloth and I'll wipe those contacts really good, wipe along the edges right through here as well. And then take another one of those Zeiss cleaning wipes and go through that same motion to clear the rear lens element. Now I do want to mention, I very rarely clean the rear lens element. It's almost always the front. From my experience, there's very little debris that really ever gets on the back, but I do every once in a while will clean the rear, but it's usually the front. But that's the process that I go through when it comes to just cleaning the actual lenses itself. Now, as far as the camera body is concerned, cleaning sensors is definitely something that makes a lot of people nervous. Used to make me very nervous, but I'm hoping here in just a few more moments you will feel much more comfortable. So first things first is to clean the exterior of the camera. Same process as with the actual lens barrel. You just want to make sure you blow everything off on the actual camera itself, through every single crevice, and all the little dials and all the buttons, blow everywhere. In the viewfinder, I like to flip up the flippy screen right through here, get underneath it, and all those little kind of moving parts that enable a flippy screen to flip. And just basically try and get it as clean as possible. Wipe everything down, because ultimately, just like with the camera lenses, when you open up your camera sensor here, or the cap, you want to make sure that there isn't any kind of debris that could fall inside of it. So getting the exterior of your camera body as clean as possible is definitely important. Now, as far as just kind of, blowing off the sensor, I should say, that is what I do much more often. I actually rarely clean the camera sensor, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But to blow everything off, you just open up the center cap here, of course, lift it upside down, take your rocket blower on an angle, and just blow all the way around it like this. And then any kind of debris will fall straight down. Definitely want to blow off the little contacts right through here, but putting everything on an angle, and of course, keeping the camera body upside down is very, very important. Now, as far as camera sensor cleaning is concerned, the most important thing is to determine whether or not you even need to do it. And from my experience, you don't need to do it nearly as often as you might think. So a great little test to determine whether or not you need to clean your camera sensor is this right here. So what I like to do, put a lens on your camera body, doesn't matter what lens it is, focus on something that is like a single color. I like to use white. I like to use my computer screen, mainly because you can make your computer screen much brighter. So just find anything white like this. And then you stop down your camera. So if you're using like an APS-C or a full frame camera, stop it down to f/22. I'm using a full frame camera, so I stop mine all the way down to f/32. And I set the ISO as low as I can, really. So I always like to do it ISO 100. You can bump it up a little bit to 200 if you have to, but I'm able to see sensor spots much better when the ISO is very low. So stop down your aperture, low ISO. Set your focus on infinity. So you want to switch your focus to manual mode, switch it to infinity, and then go ahead. The shutter speed really doesn't matter. And then you just want to take a photo of your screen. So what you do is, this is the photo that I took. Just looks like a white photo. Doesn't look like there's anything there at all. But if you come over here inside of Lightroom and you click this little Band-Aid icon and you open this up, you'll come down here and you select Visualize Spots. And then you can drag this little slider all the way over to the right, and all of the sensor spots will be revealed. That is zoomed in all the way. That's why it looks crazy like that. But all those sensor spots will be revealed right there. And you can see there are quite a few. Let me just make this, let me fit this on my screen here. There are quite a few. And you can see the camera settings that I use. 1 second exposure, f/32, ISO 100, and this is the photo that I came up with. So when I look at this right here, this sensor really is not that dirty, but I wanted to go ahead and clean it anyway. It's been over a year since I've cleaned this camera sensor, and it is a simple process. And what made me feel so much more comfortable is knowing that you're not actually cleaning the physical sensor itself. There is a thin protective layer of glass in front of that camera sensor. So you're really cleaning that glass. You're not necessarily wiping the camera sensor. And when I realized that, I was like, okay, you're kind of cleaning the window to the sensor. So that kind of reduced a little bit of my anxiety associated with it. But I bought some of these kits right here, buy them off of Amazon. They're pretty inexpensive. The most important thing is you want to get the sensor swab size that matches your sensor. So this is a medium format camera. This is a medium format sensor size swab. If you have full frame camera, get a full frame size. If you have an APS-C size sensor, get the one for APS-C size. Mainly the reason that's so important is because you just want to be able to do one swipe. You don't want to have to be swiping over and over and over again. So this kit right here comes with a bunch of these little swabs. You open them up. This is the swab that I used this morning. And then you use the little sensor cleaning solution. You definitely want to read the directions on your kit. This one right here had you drop just two little droplets, one on the left side, one on the right side. And then you basically just very slowly just take the sensor swabbing kit, and then you just do one stroke one direction and another stroke the other direction, and that's it. Want to apply a little bit of pressure. You know, these kind of, you can see it kind of bending just a little bit. I always like to see to where that there was just a little bit of bend, but you definitely want to be careful because most cameras today, the camera sensors are stabilized in body image stabilization. And you can damage those mechanisms if you're, if you're putting the tension like this on your camera sensor. That's probably too much. But if there's just a little bit of curvature to it, that's kind of how you know that you're applying an appropriate amount. I'll show you the after image here in just a moment. Actually, I'll show you right now. So this is the after image. So this is before. There's definitely more here now, or before I should say, and this is the after. So before and after, obviously there is still a few spots left, but it did greatly reduce the amount of them. The thing about this is you're never going to get it completely clean, ever. And I've never done this before. I wish I did, but when you take a camera out of the box for the very first time, I would like to go through this and see if that sensor is absolutely perfect. I have a feeling it's not. So it's natural to have a couple little spots on there. So don't drive yourself crazy trying to remove every single spot, because more than likely you will probably not be able to do that. And at the end of the day, you're not going to see most of these these sensor spots anyway. How often are you stopping your camera all the way down and taking a photo of just a white object? It just doesn't happen too often. Every once in a while you might capture a photograph where there's a bright blue sky and you might see a small sensor spot, but if that happens to you, it's super easy to remove that in whatever kind of post-processing software that you are using. So now, as far as tripods are concerned, tripods get super gunked up and dirty, especially if you're photographing it near the any kind of seascape. Sand is like the culprit. But a lot of times if you open up your, the joints of your camera, you can hear that kind of grinding. Mine sounds a little grimy. But tripods, for the most part, they all might be a little bit different, but the general idea is pretty much the same, where you unscrew the legs completely like this, and then you just pull them apart, take off that little plastic thing. I like to take an old toothbrush, definitely not my current toothbrush, but an old one, and just kind of brush in between all these grooves, rinse it out really well. I like to take all of the tripod parts apart and then put them inside of the shower and just kind of clean them off that way. And then you just kind of assemble everything. I would just definitely make sure that you are taking mental note as you are disassembling your tripod as to how you put it back together again. It is pretty straightforward, but if you're not paying attention, you can get a little bit tripped up, but the overall process is pretty simple. And that's the number one thing that I do. That's really the only thing that I do when it comes to just kind of cleaning for my tripod. If I'm photographing seascapes and I get hit by a wave and my entire tripod is covered with salt water, as soon as I get back to my hotel room, I will fully extend the tripod and put it in the shower and just let it run water on it for a few minutes, just to kind of get off as much of that salt water as I can, because that is an absolute killer. And then preventative measures. So changing your lenses in the field is definitely a hot topic. I think that the overall consensus is that most people do it a fairly similar way, but I think everyone's got a slight little nuance to it, and this is the process that I go through, and I think it's been pretty successful for me. So I'll have a lens in a bag, and if that's the lens that I'm going to be putting on my camera body, I'll make sure that the lens cap is loose, so it's just, all I have to do is just take it off. And then I want to make a note to where the red red badge is, because you line up the red badge with the red badge on your camera, put those two together, and then you twist, and then you're on. On my camera, and I think on most cameras, that red little dot is somewhere right at about 10 o'clock on a clock. So I always want to make sure that I know exactly where the red dot is here. Take it off, put it right on, and you're good to go. I like that because one, it's quicker, and two, the quicker you're able to do it, that means the less time that your camera sensor is exposed to the elements. So the quicker that you can do that is definitely the better. Now, as far as tripods are concerned, a preventative measure this is huge, is that, and I see this all the time, I used to do it constantly, is if you're photographing in water, whether it's the ocean or a river, I would always unscrew the very first joint, extend it out, and then put all of this underwater. And that's a recipe for disaster, because you're going to get so much sand and gunk in these joints. What I do now, and what I would definitely recommend, is to unscrew the bottom leg and extend that out and put this in the water right through here, because there's no joints through here. There's no moving parts in this section. So put this section underwater, try and keep those joints above water. That will definitely help you to not have to clean your tripod near as often, because when those joints get really gunked up with sand, they don't really lock down very well, and your tripod legs can slip. And then the last thing, hot shoe covers. So hot shoe covers, I used to lose them constantly, but there's a ton of electronic things inside of these hot shoes. And if you don't have a cover on it, you're not using a flash or a microphone, and it's completely exposed to the elements, even if it's not raining, it could just be fog or mist, Moisture can get into these electronic components and short out your camera. I've seen it happen time and time again. I lose these all the time. Most people do. I have a bunch that I bought off Amazon. If I ever lose them, I put one right back on because I want to keep those hot shoes completely covered, because that is a point of failure on all cameras, is an exposed hot shoe. So I definitely want to keep those covered. If you have any questions about anything that I mentioned in this week's video regarding caring for your camera gear, please leave those in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this week's video, if you could, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And as always, I really do appreciate you carving out a little bit of time to spend it with me here today, and I will see you all next Wednesday. Bye.